Welcome back to It's All Geek to Me, a podcast where two geeks are tasked with clearing a swamp out of a bunch of fairy tale creatures.
Oh, I don't like swamps. I'll pass.
Get out of my swamp.
Okay, I'm out. You don't have to ask twice. Well, today we are visiting a realm that we've visited before, a studio that we've visited before, Studio Ghibli.
Yes.
And we are watching The Boy and the Heron.
The Boy and the Heron.
Which
I
so
had
far,
never heard about before.
Right.
I didn't know a thing about it. Should we jump
Go back
in
to the past to show you just how little.
Which side is the past on? Because I pointed this way. You pointed that way.
Whatever way the wind takes us, I guess.
This way.
I'll go this way, you go that way. See if we meet up in the same place.
Okay, deal. Back to the past now.
Now, welcome to Pre-Thoughts about The Boy and the Heron,
Woo.
a movie that I'm pretty sure Kelli knows nothing about.
Yeah, I was actually really excited to tell you my pre-thoughts on it.
Oh, go.
I've never even heard of this movie.
Yeah, it's because we...
Is it animated?
It is animated.
Okay.
It's a Studio Ghibli Miyazaki film, and it
okay.
just won the Oscar for Best Animated Film.
And I've never, I couldn't even tell you, I don't even know what a heron is. Is it a bird?
It's a bird, yeah.
Okay.
It's a bird.
Is it like a
And there's
shore bird?
boy. Yeah, it's like, I think it's the one with like the big gullet.
I thought that was a stork.
I mean, there could be multiple birds with big gullets.
Yeah,
I
that's
wouldn't
true.
call
Why are
myself a bird connoisseur.
Really?
I actually hate birds.
I thought you were a bird connoisseur of sorts.
No, you know.
You always know when there's a bird in the vicinity.
I always know when there's a bird
So
around.
I thought that
you
was
hear me
just...
scream, there's a bird.
You should always know your enemy. You should know more about birds.
I don't know. I mean, I'm picturing it in my head. You didn't watch the trailer for it, did you?
I didn't watch a single thing. I want to go in fully blind.
I watched the trailer like so long ago.
Have you not watched it?
No, the movie I haven't watched.
We're going to learn together.
Yeah. So, I
And neither of us is the expert.
No one's the expert, which is kind of a fun format. I'm sure we mentioned
Yeah.
that when we go back to the future. I'm sure we
Oh,
already said it.
yeah, we did mention that.
But something I mentioned to you was that there are two actors in the film that I know you know, but one of them I'm not going to tell you because I'm curious if you're going to figure it out. But the other one I was thinking about it and I was like, you know her. I'm going to see if you can figure it out now. You know who she is. You watch a show that she's in. But the reason I want to tell you who she is because you've never heard her voice. You've never heard her
She's
speak.
in a show that I'm watching.
Currently, yeah. I'd say currently.
Are you sure?
Current enough. Yeah. No, yeah. I would say currently, yes.
Okay, so the shows I'm watching right now are
Okay, not like-
Sopranos. Oh. I thought you meant currently watching.
No, like it's currently on. It exists, and I do think you will continue to watch it as the show is
progresses.
on.
Okay,
Yes.
so it's an active show.
Yes.
That I've seen probably every episode of.
Except for maybe the new ones.
Smiling Friends.
No.
I have no idea. Wait. Let me think. What streaming platform is it on?
Amazon.
I mean, like The Boys?
Yeah, The Boys.
Oh, that girl whose
Yeah.
name I don't remember?
Yeah, Kimiko from The Boys is in The
Kimiko.
Boys.
Yeah.
And I was like, I have to tell you because you're not going to recognize her voice because she doesn't speak in The Boys.
Yeah.
So you're not going to know what her voice
Dude,
sounds like.
I barely remember that show. The last time we watched it was last year.
I know because I knew you hadn't watched the new episodes yet. They literally
they're
dropped.
back?
It dropped like 3 days ago.
Oh, yeah. No, I didn't watch yet.
Yeah.
Wow, that's funny. Yeah, I need like the recap, when they're like, last season
on
yeah.
The Boys. Yeah. But
Like,
yeah,
who's
so
that girl again?
her name is Karen Fukuhara. I don't actually know who she plays, and I know what she sounds like. And I'm excited to see her animated work in this film.
Same. She's my favorite actor.
I love the sound of her voice.
I love this. She has such a stunning voice. Like when you hear it, it's almost like music, I
Yeah.
haven't heard it.
No,
but
yeah.
I have
That's
to
what you
assume.
picture in your head.
Yeah. It's kind of like a mix between Fergie and Jesus,
But I'm very excited to...
Is that a very outdated reference?
Fergie and Jesus? I didn't get it, so I just moved past it.
Oh,
I know who Fergie is.
No. What do you mean? You know who Jesus is.
Oh, I've never met him.
Neither have
I've
I.
never met Fergie. I know who Fergie is. You know who Jesus
You've met Fergie?
No.
This is rough.
What's the Fergie and Jesus reference?
It's Step Brothers with John C. Reilly.
Kelli, you have to stop quoting comedies to me.
Do you know that my partner only watches comedies?
Do you know that me doesn't watch comedies?
Do you know that that's not grammatically correct?
Yeah. Ryan, can you tell her I don't watch
You
comedies?
better stop. Ryan is so real. One of these days.
He is real.
One of these days, he's going to pop up. He won't.
He just like comes out behind the couch. He's been there this whole time.
What if he was?
Those are my pre-thoughts for
Okay.
me on Boy and the Heron. All I know
Should we
is...
make a guess on what it's about? Well, let me guess first, and I assume
Okay.
you've seen the trailer.
I saw it so long ago.
Okay. I think it's about, what's that movie / book with the kid who has like the tiger in his boat? I never saw it, and I never read it.
Wait, the
There's
Life
like a
of Pi?
I have no
That's
idea.
a movie.
Okay, well, it's also a book.
I don't know if it's... I never saw it. I have no idea.
I never saw it either, which I'm like...
But it's like his tiger's his little buddy.
Oh, it's his buddy? Oh, I thought he was
I'm
stuck with
asking you.
Oh, I don't know. I thought... I was like, there's no way you can make this movie at least an hour and a half long of a guy trying to avoid a tiger in a rowboat.
I'm pretty sure that's Life of Pi.
Yeah, that's okay. Yeah, but that's
what a movie that was like nominated for an Oscar. But
I know.
I'm pretty sure that's what it was
I'm
him
sure it's incredible.
avoiding
Maybe we should watch it.
A tiger in a rowboat.
I feel like I would just, if I was the tiger in this situation, I would just eat him immediately and then just be good.
That's true. Yeah.
Like
but maybe he like
befriends the tiger.
Yeah,
that's what I assume has to happen.
Well, I feel like the boy has to be friends with the heron.
I'm just assuming it's the same exact plot as the boy and the
They're
tiger.
stuck in a rowboat
the whole time.
And he's got to get him out of the rowboat. Well, we know there's going to be like funny little guys because it's a Miyazaki film.
I love funny little guys.
Yeah, so there's going to be like some goofy little creatures.
Little squeaky guy. Yeah.
I know that the heron has a crazy voice.
Yeah?
Yeah.
He talks?
Yeah,
human
the heron
speak?
talks. Mm-hmm.
I didn't want to say English because I was like, I'm pretty sure it wasn't made in English.
It wasn't made in English.
So I was just like,
but
he talks
by the
human?
way, I was talking about the two actors were from the American cast, though Karen Fukuhara, I do believe, is Japanese, has Japanese descent. She was the American voice actor.
Oh, that's fun.
Yeah.
Was she also in the Japanese version?
No.
Okay. Yeah, no, I'm going to be watching the English version. I assume that that's what we're
Yeah,
both going to be watching. If I know anything about Studio Ghibli from my limited experience, it's that the plot doesn't, it's kind of meanders.
Yeah.
So I figure it's going to meander
Mm-hmm.
a little bit. There might be things that I think, wow, that's going to be important later. And then it's not.
Yeah. I always also feel like there's a lot that's like left up to your own imagination.
Yeah. So yeah, I'm excited to watch it.
I'm excited. I think it's going to be fun. So
we'll pop back into the future. Do you want to go?
Yeah, let's go back to the future. Back to the future.
Oh my gosh.
We're back.
That was weird. Did you just go back in the past too?
Mm-hmm.
I saw you.
What did my hair
Your hair
look
was
like?
different.
Wait, actually, I think it was so far in the past.
It was 2 hair colors ago.
No, that it actually looks exactly the same as it does right now.
Really?
I'm pretty
No way.
sure. We filmed that so long ago that I really don't remember, but I'm fairly certain I looked exactly the same.
I don't remember what I said at all, even though it was 2 seconds ago for our listeners.
Well, I remember one thing.
What?
That I was really excited about and got ruined.
Oh, yeah.
Which Kelly already knows about.
Something did get ruined.
Something got ruined. I was very excited to tell Kelly that the secret voice actor in this movie was none other than sparkly vampire himself, Robert Pattinson, who plays the Heron in this movie. If you didn't know, you would have never guessed. Yeah.
No shot.
But unfortunately, an actual avid listener of ours, Devaney.
Oh, so
that was probably
loud.
so loud she could hear me.
She's
so
probably
like, but we were all hanging out the other night, and I mentioned that we were going to watch The Boy and the Heron. I, at that point, had watched the beginning half already, and Kelly had not even started it. And the first thing Devaney says is, Robert Pattinson in that movie. Can you believe it?
She was like, I couldn't tell it was his voice at all.
I wanted to play 20 questions with you.
Yeah. I don't know that I would have gotten it. I probably wouldn't have even noticed that she said that because I was just kind of like in my own world.
I know, but then I had a meltdown.
No! So you pushed it.
I know. I could have just been like,
yeah, you could just learn.
It wasn't. But there's actually a star-studded cast in this movie.
Yeah, I noticed one.
So there's one I remembered as I was watching, but I didn't notice him yet. So maybe he's in the second half. So I'll keep that.
Ooh.
I'll keep that on my chest for now. But who did you?
Christian Bale. He's the dad.
Oh, okay.
I don't know, because in the beginning I felt that he had a very weird accent and I was like, who is this voice actor? But then later on, like when he was talking, I was like, this is Christian Bale.
Because he had an Australian accent, didn't he?
He started to, and then
it
later
wasn't
on,
consistent.
it was not consistent.
No, it wasn't consistent.
But then later on, he said, I actually don't know what his real accent is. Is he American?
He's British.
Is he really?
Don't quote me on that, audience.
I like his voice. I like his Batman voice.
Oh yeah, I think he's great.
I feel like at one point I heard the Batman voice, and that's when I was like, that is Christian Bale.
Yeah.
Which I wouldn't have really been able to guess that either until almost halfway through the movie.
Him I would not have guessed. When I was watching it, I remembered a specific voice actor, but then when Devaney mentioned Robert Pattinson being in it, it did actually remind me that there were other voice actors in it. Florence Pugh.
I don't know that I would recognize her voice.
Me neither.
Okay.
Yeah, because when I watched the secking half, I knew it was her.
The only thing I've ever seen her in was Oppenheimer.
Oh, I've seen her in everything she's probably been in except for Oppenheimer.
You haven't seen Oppenheimer?
No.
That seems like a movie you would have watched.
I feel like it would have upset me too much, honestly.
Really?
But actually, Oppenheimer is the same time period of this movie.
I thought you were going to say Cillian Murphy was in it because I couldn't even fathom who he would have been.
Oh, no, Cillian Murphy. No, I was actually trying to segue back to the movie. Same time period.
Okay.
Which initially set me off for this movie when the movie opened and I realized that we were in World War II and I was like, oh goodness, this is going to be a sad movie, which it ended up being for the first half.
I had no idea what this movie was about. Everything was a shock to me.
Yeah, I would agree with that. There was really nothing I knew about it, but I didn't think it was going to start in such a heart-wrenching place with his mother burning in a building.
This is not, maybe I should say, is this not a children's movie? Because I thought it was going to be.
I would say that this is not a children's movie, but I also went into it thinking it was a child's movie.
I was waiting for Spirited Away. It was Spirited Away.
This is Spirited Away, but for a
sad version.
Yes, I wrote that in my notes specifically that this is Spirited Away, but the sad version. Obviously, we've only watched the first half of it, but based on the first half, this is not a child's movie. And I think if you're an hour into a movie and you've said, this is not for kids, no matter what happens in the second half, this is not a kid's movie.
That's a good point. It's already not a kid's movie.
No,
Nothing
I would not show this to my kids. It was really depressing.
Leah has a lot of kids.
I have so many children. They're all stuffed animals.
They're all in the bed. Is that a secret that there's a bed behind us?
There's a bed over there and there's like 6 stuffed animals. There's about like 7 more behind the beanbag chair.
Oh my goodness.
And I would not show a single one of them this movie.
Yeah.
They're not old enough.
No. Yeah. I think you were going to say, I didn't love it so far.
You didn't.
Mm-hmm.
I did, but I knew that you didn't.
No, not for me so far.
You didn't have to tell me. I'm not surprised. I was literally watching and being like, Kelly's going to hate this
is an interesting perspective because this is, I believe this is the first time on the podcast that we're doing a movie that I'm not enjoying.
Besides, I'd say some of the Star Wars, but I think the overall world building.
Yeah, even when I was upset about Star Wars, it was because I was so invested.
Yeah.
Like when I hated on Anakin and Padme and stuff, and I was just like, it's
in the context of the movie.
Yeah, I love the story. I'm so mad at them. This time I'm like, if it weren't for the podcast, I don't know if I would watch the second half of this movie, if I'm being totally honest.
Oh no, well, I hope it picks up. I mean, I feel like we ended at a point where things were like finally happening.
I mean, I know. So we watched up to the 1 hour, 9 minute mark.
Yeah.
I have a prediction. So at least there's that.
I wrote a plethora of predictions.
Really?
But that we'll get to.
That's the only one I got. You know what? We'll talk about it. Let's talk about it.
Let's start from the beginning. And since I enjoyed the movie, I can take care of most of the narrating.
Yeah, you should narrate while I interject with my judgment.
Yeah, that's fine. So we start with the character we end up learning is Mahito. And it's World War II Japan. And his mother dies in a burning building.
Yep.
A hospital, actually.
Wait, can I just say, there was promise in the beginning of the movie, even though it was obviously sad stuff was going on. The way he climbed up the stairs... That's how I climb upstairs.
I love that. I was going to bring that up too. There was so much humanity in this film. Yes. Even though you were watching a cartoon, you felt these human moments built into the animation. And that was one of them. There were quiet moments of him putting his shirt on and putting his shoes on. There were like a few times where the movie stopped to show those moments.
And that's something that I think is typical of Studio Ghibli.
Yeah.
Even in a fantastical setting, there's still so much of this, human aspect.
Yes.
So I can appreciate that. We'll get into what I don't like.
Okay. And other things I really enjoyed about this moment was the sound when he was running towards the burning building. The noise around him was very distorted, but his breathing was so loud.
Yeah.
And I think that showed us how the character was feeling in that moment, which was obviously a lot of fear and panic and distress because he knew that this building was burning down with his mother in it. I felt that with those sound cues in that moment.
Yeah, that was really beautifully done. I will say, I'm going to hate on this movie. I'm sorry. I don't like it so far. But the beginning had a lot of promise for me. I love a sad movie.
Yeah.
I loved it up until a certain point, and I'll tell you when that point is, and that's when I was like, I could take it or leave it with this movie.
Okay. Well, I'm excited about that.
Yeah.
Moving on from there, we hear that during the war, Mahito and his father are leaving Tokyo. We see them getting on a train. They get off the train, and we are introduced to his stepmother.
Yep.
But it's been 3 years. So I'm like, okay, that's plenty of time.
Yeah.
Though I'm curious about this because I was going back and forth with it because I think another thing Studio Ghibli does.
I think it was 1 year.
I heard 3 years.
It was 3 years into the war, my mother died. And then 1 year later, we left Tokyo, I'm pretty sure.
I'll believe you. Sure.
I could be wrong.
Fact checkers. I don't know.
Didn't love it.
I heard 3 years. Regardless.
How many times can I say that?
Let's do it.
Next episode, I'm going to be like, the ending was amazing.
Yeah, you're
We'll
going to like
see.
love how it turns out. Well, regardless, his wife has passed away. And
Except for new mom is already prego.
yeah, okay. So I changed my opinion on her very quickly because at first I was like, I love that she's carrying her own suitcase. We love an independent woman. And then immediately
I went through the exact same thing.
Yes.
I was like, love her. Love what she's wearing. Love her vibe. Love that she's like not this waifish little person. And then she was also
she
like
grabbed him.
She's
The way she grabbed him.
and then put that. This boy is going through it.
Yeah.
This is not the time.
This is not the time. She did
And that's
not.
how you introduce it. By the way, that wasn't a fart. That was a car. I just want to say that. Leah's propaganda about me farting.
I'm gonna vomit. It smells so bad in here.
You better stop with this nonsense.
Okay. Yeah. So we had the same feeling about
Yeah.
stepmommy. And the thing with her too.
That was also not a fart. That was my foot.
have these things I don't even know if they're picking up in the microphone.
Just in case there was another one. I'm going to put my foot down.
Okay. Another thing about the mom, I was going back and forth with this because I think another thing with Studio Ghibli that I enjoy, but then also sometimes confuses me, is we don't really ever get a lot of exposition.
Yeah.
And so something I'm confused about, but I think I've definitively decided that stepmom
Mhm.
is dead mom's sister. So this is aunt.
I didn't notice that.
No, that I'm pretty sure about.
But I am judgmental of that.
Because I think the place they're staying has
They
been
did
mentioned
say-
a few times that the mom.
Oh, yeah. The kid did mention she looks just like mom.
These were the cues that I picked up on.
I thought that was just him being a kid.
Or
Looks
that
the
his
same
dad
to
is a
me.
type.
Oh, clearly he does. Keep it in the family.
yeah,
That makes me like dad a little bit less.
Yeah, I don't know. Maybe I'll remember exactly what it was as we're going through it, but I am convinced that yes, that is his sister. Her sister.
Judgmental.
Yeah.
Okay.
So the baby is his cousin.
Both his cousin and sibling.
sister's brother. Yeah.
Wow, you're really making a case for this movie. Okay. Tell me why else I should like it.
I kind of understand it because thinking about the time period and Japan, I don't know.
Which is an imaginary place, as we've learned from you.
Yeah, Japan,
From
the
last
imaginary
Studio
place.
Ghibli. Leah didn't think Tokyo existed as a child.
But maybe, in the 1940s, there could be some sort of cultural or safety. Like there could be
Yeah.
many reasons of why he would marry his wife's
and I mean,
sister.
I think
So I'm not going to judge too
it's a
hard.
common trope, and I think it borrows from real life that, like, as a father back then in a traditional life setting, you're looking for someone to be the traditional wife.
Yes.
You know what I
Mhm,
mean?
mhm.
You may as well pick the closest person.
to what you've already got going on.
Yeah. Why not?
And
I
she had a
guess.
great house to retreat to during the war, which
Yeah.
I don't know where they were. I guess they were maybe somewhere in the countryside,
Yeah.
but I assume they were still in Japan.
Yeah.
But the house was great. And that was the next part. She's kind of like showing him around the place. And it's the first encounter with the heron when the heron was just a normal
Yeah.
heron.
I thought that they were going to be friends. Turns out that's not the case.
Yeah. I
Do you tell me you
don't
hate the heron
like
as much?
the heron.
Okay, good. At the point when the heron has a situation, that's when I was like, I hate this movie. I hate it.
That's when you started hating the movie?
Yes. I was waiting for them to be friends. I thought they were going to go on an adventure together.
Yeah.
That's not what happened.
Well, I mean, I assume that that's what the second half of the movie is going to be.
Well, yeah, I mean, he's already started on this adventure,
Yeah.
but I'm like, the heron's not his friend.
Well, no, the heron's not his friend, but like one of my predictions for the movie, because we did get like that like spiky haired guy at one point being like, you guys need to work together. Like sort of close to where we ended.
Yeah.
So my prediction was that it's going to be like a buddy comedy. Not a comedy. I don't think it's going to turn a comedy.
Okay, that's your prediction.
But
We'll see.
I think that they're going to be like these enemies to
Unwilling
friends sort of
allies.
thing.
Yeah.
That's what I'm assuming for the end. But the heron needs to just stay as a heron. Because there was
Yeah,
some
with the
weird
man.
thing happening out
The
of his
teeth.
face.
Yeah.
And I didn't like
He's
that.
like a man wearing a heron suit.
That's what I'm guessing?
That's what it looks like.
Yeah.
He's there and he's got the head and it's bad. It's bad. I hate him. I'm sorry. I hate the movie.
Because of the heron specifically?
Am I going to lose my film major status? Do I lose my degree for this?
Yeah, because it
This
did
felt-
win an Oscar.
This felt like a movie that I would have had to watch in film school.
Yeah.
And let me tell you, 90% of the movies I had to watch in film school, hated them. I was not a good, I mean, I was a good film major, but I wasn't a good film snob. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So
I don't think, see, I actually want to disagree with you and I say you are a film snob.
Me?
Because if you don't like 80% of the movies that you watched, then that makes you a film snob.
Oh, no.
If you like most of the movies, then it means that you can look at them from different perspectives.
Uh-oh. No, but here's the thing. I hate movies that film snobs love.
Okay, yeah.
Like, I actually didn't love Oppenheimer either. I'm sorry.
And I think there can be a case made for films that go to the Oscars being a little uppity.
A little bit, yeah. Like, I mean, I said in a recent thing, I think when I was talking about IMDb, Emperor's New Groove, 9 out of 10 stars. Blue Velvet, also 9 out of 10
No.
Oh, I gave it 8, I think.
No. It was Emperor's New Groove, you gave it 10.
Oh, did I?
Yeah.
And Blue Velvet, I gave a 9.
Yeah.
There were some parts of Blue Velvet I didn't like. Blue Velvet, when I'm trying to be like, I actually am a film snob, I tell people that Blue Velvet is my favorite movie. But it's not. Emperor's New Groove.
Actually, Emperor's New Groove is my favorite movie. I have a film degree. Thank you.
I'm a film snob. I love Emperor's New Groove. We should do an episode on Emperor's New Groove. I could be the expert.
Yeah, I would do it.
Really? I really thought you were going to say no. Okay, well, let's...
No, everyone tells me I need to watch that movie.
You've never seen it, Leah?
How have we... Yes, you knew that.
No, I didn't. How could I know that? How could you not have watched my favorite movie?
Because I've literally told you this.
This is the highest quality movie you will... It's going to change your life.
Okay, we will do it on the podcast.
We shouldn't talk about so much that movie on this episode because we're talking about another movie.
Yes, back to the movie. We meet the Heron for the first time, and then we immediately meet all the old ladies, and one of them has a Yubaba-like face.
Yeah.
It wasn't exactly her face, but it was reminiscent of her.
Yeah, very similar.
Yeah. So yeah, they're unpacking all that stuff, and Mahito ends up in his room. The Heron knocks at the window. The stepmother brings him tea, and he has a dream about his mom.
Yeah, kid suffering from a little bit of PTSD.
I would say so. Yeah.
Oh, that actually, see, at this point, I was like, oh, I'm sad for this kid. I love him. I'm invested in him.
I am invested in him. And I do agree. I do wish this movie was just called
The Boy.
The Boy.
The Heron, he doesn't seem like he's a huge part of it.
That's what I'm saying too, is like, I feel like something is going to happen in the second half with him because he doesn't really appear to be.
Yeah.
Like he's the one that obviously like incites the incident of the movie where he's like talking about the mom and come with me and all that stuff. But like, besides that, I'm not really understanding why the movie is warranted being called The Boy and the Heron at this present moment.
Yeah.
Because it seems so much more about his mom.
The Boy and the
his
Tower.
The Boy in the Tower.
Yeah.
That'd be better.
Call me, Studio Ghibli. I got ideas.
But at this point in the movie was when I was really picking up on the fact that like the mom dying was going to be, it wasn't just the beginning of the movie setting up the character, that his mom dying was going to be a prevalent theme throughout it. And this was when I was really starting to pick up on that theme of the movie, of his mom being super important.
Yeah. I mean, I think there's this very clear theme of like coping with death. So far in the movie, up until this point, he hasn't expressed any emotion.
No.
He hasn't been sad. He hasn't been excited. Everything since the mom passing, he has just accepted in silence.
And things are just like happening to him.
Things are just, and he's very passive. So yeah, I mean, it'll be interesting to see if he can grow, which I assume he will by the end of the movie.
Yeah.
And like either accept his new life is going to be a little bit different, or like be hyped about getting a baby brother or sister.
Or at least, figure out a way to cope with the loss of his mother.
Yeah.
Because we also see
skipping. How old is he? Did we
at 13 maybe?
13, you think? Wow, I was gonna say like 5, but
I will give the fact that this is an animated film a pass on how different those ages.
There's no way he's 13. No way. He's probably like 9. We're probably both
somewhere in the middle. Regardless, he's a kid.
I'm gonna look it up.
Okay.
Because you laughed way too hard at me saying 5.
5?
I don't know, like 5 to 7 or whatever.
I'm saying 13. I'm sticking.
He's 11.
Wow.
You were close.
I was closer. Ha ha ha.
Well, I was closer in the beginning of the movie.
Fine. I'll give it to you.
Thank you.
Speaking about his emotions, though, it's a little bit farther ahead in the movie, but I think it's a good time to bring up when he goes to school.
Yeah.
And he clocks himself in the head.
Yeah.
That was a wild moment.
Yeah, that was crazy.
And I love receiving information about a character in this way, not through someone talking about them or anything, but through an actual action. We learn so much about this character and how he is dealing emotionally.
And we also learned that it's not a kid's film.
The World War II mention and then that moment
I mean, I think World War II, obviously, yeah, it's an adult theme, but I think that we've had movies set in bad times in the world.
Yeah.
So like that.
And kids can comprehend.
Yeah, kids can comprehend that. Or they could have just not known that it was necessarily World War II. They were just like, there was a fire. And then when they grow up, they're like, oh, that was the implication of the
yeah. At first, I was like really floored when that happened.
Same.
Like jaw on the ground. That moment really
I did a Leah style gasp.
Yeah, no, I was really shook by that. And it did take me a minute to kind of process why.
Yeah.
But my end thought is it was the bullying. He just didn't want to be bullied.
Oh, really? I took it as a self-harm cry for help situation.
Okay, yeah. Well, I think we're
like
both
not a cry.
Right,
yeah. So both of us are saying a cry for help, but I think what I meant is a cry for help from his own emotions.
Okay.
With dealing with the trauma of what happened to him, and you're saying the continuing trauma of being bullied.
Being at school.
So it's probably
it's a combination of both also. Yeah, I didn't even think of like the self-harm aspect of it. But I think even if my interpretation is correct that it was a bullying thing, I think to be able to take that sort of anger out on yourself also, it's still hurting yourself.
Yeah.
No matter what your motivation is. And that's also some sort of trauma that he's obviously not working through with the dreams and everything like that. But I just think, the overstimulation of being in a new place, having a new mom, having a new sibling, going to a new school, there's just like a lot happening to this poor kid and he's not processing very well.
Yeah.
And he's also talking to a heron, and that's kind of... They kind of normalized it like, oh, that's normal for your family specifically.
Okay, we need to talk about the situation that occurs at some point. I mean, I know stuff happens in between, but like...
Yeah, I want to see if I missed anything specific that was...
I mean, we
before
met
he goes
some of the
school.
grannies.
Yeah, we got more about
stories.
the grannies. Yeah, he's following like the feather. Oh, he sees the tower. We did miss that. That's pretty important. So he does, before he goes to school, he does see the tower for the first time. And that's where we get the story, the background story of that the ancestor, great uncle,
I think
built the tower or found the tower.
Again, at this point I was excited because I was like, this is a great groundwork for a story. I love this. Well, things change.
So what made you liked the groundwork, but what changed your opinion on it?
It's hard to say because I think a few things. So one, what I was going to bring up was all the fish coming out of the water and being like, I don't even remember, they said help us or something.
I hated that.
Hated it.
Oh.
And then all the frogs climbing all over him. And
did we skip that part? That happened here?
That happens at this point, I think.
It was horrible.
It was terrible. And I was like, wait, is this a horror movie? And there was other parts of that too. Like the gutting of the fish to me was a little bit of like...
Oh, yeah. Okay, this wasn't where that fish and frogs thing happened. It was later on.
Okay.
He finds the tower. The heron brings him to the tower. When the frogs and the fish thing happens, it's when he talks to the heron again. And that's when the heron says like, I got your mom.
He's got the human teeth coming out, and he starts to have a human face coming out.
Yeah, and things were getting really gross at that point. At that point, I was like, hated that.
Yeah, okay. Well, I'm glad you did too. At that point, I was like, I don't know if this is for me. But then at that point, I felt like it turned into just Spirited Away with a different main character. And I was like, oh, so we're just capitalizing on the success of Spirited Away.
Yes and no, because...
Wasn't Spirited Away supposed to be his last movie? He like came out of retirement for Spirited Away, and now he just did this movie again. That was basically Spirited Away.
What? There's no way. He hasn't had a single movie come out since Spirited Away.
Let me check.
That's not true.
I'm pretty sure I read that he came out of retirement for Spirited Away. Let's see his films in order. Spirited Away. Oh, then he did Howl's Moving Castle.
Okay.
Ponyo, The Wind Rises. Okay. Yeah, but he did those relatively quickly after Spirited Away. It had been 10 years since his last film.
So obviously, because I said at the beginning too, I had the same thought as you that this is adult Spirited Away. But
let's make it with a boy and let's kill his mom.
I was going to use Stephen King actually as an example.
Oh?
Who we both love. And this is
My
not a
ears
knock.
Have perked up.
This is not a knock at Stephen
King. Oh, you're going to insult the king? Okay.
No, I'm not going to insult him. But I'm going to
Just
say...
kidding. He's not perfect.
No, he's definitely not perfect. He's written some books that I definitely don't like, but he has such a huge collection of books that obviously there's going to be some that you don't like. But something I've noticed in his writing, and this is just because I've read so many of his books, that things happen over and over again. And he uses the similar themes over and over again. And I think the best example I can use, which is a terrible example because so many people are not going to have read either one of these books, but there's the Tommy Knockers and there's Dr. Sleep. Dr. Sleep is one that more people at least have seen the movie of.
Yeah.
It's the sequel to The Shining. The Tommy Knockers is one of his lowest rated
I'm not
rated books.
familiar with that one.
People don't like it. I actually really liked it, but there's a really similar world building in both of those books, and I noticed it. It was very, very similar. And I think that imitation is the sincerest form of flattery, they say.
Yeah.
We're constantly stealing ideas from other people, knowing or unknowing, whatever. I think telling a similar story to Spirited Away to a different audience is totally valid.
That's fair.
Totally valid.
Well,
so I support that this is Spirited Away, sad Spirited Away with a boy for adults.
Yeah. Okay. Just to defend Stephen King real fast.
Oh no, I didn't. That wasn't knocking Stephen King.
It wasn't knocking him.
I love him. He's my favorite
author.
author.
Just to defend why I'm okay with him doing it and not okay with Miyazaki doing it.
Okay.
I think almost all of his books are set in the same universe.
Yeah.
It's almost like self-referential.
I got that.
And he usually references himself.
I do agree with that. But in this particular situation, it's hard to describe if you haven't read the Tommy Knockers, but he also doesn't remember writing the Tommy Knockers.
Oh.
So
But yeah, no, I felt like it was, and the thing about it that's been frustrating to me so far is it's just like metaphor after metaphor. This is again me being an anti-film snob, and this is why I don't think I'm a film snob. I like to watch movies to escape into another world. I don't want to have to parse out what the different meanings are of a movie. I like ambiguous films, but if it's like, this is a metaphor, there is a correct answer, but you have to figure it out. That annoys me because I'm like, just tell me then.
But see, I don't really think that that's what it is. I think it's a metaphor and you're allowed to have your own interpretation of it. I like movies that don't, that's
how I felt about Spirited Away.
Yeah, but I felt that about this movie. And I think this again is a bad example, but this is why I like Lost. And even though the Lost writers have admitted, like, we didn't know what was going on. Yeah. I didn't know that as a viewer. So as a viewer, it's like this open-ended view, and it opens this conversation of like, what did this mean? What did you take from it?
Actually, now that you've brought it up, a part of me was like, do they even know what they're doing with this? Like, oh, this happens and then this happens. I mean, we don't have an answer, but I'm sure the audience can put something in there.
Yeah.
Like, that annoys me too.
Yeah, no, I agree. But we don't know that. We know that that's what was happening in Lost.
Yeah.
We don't know if that's what was happening in this movie.
True.
So far, I would say like, I am enjoying the ambiguity of it.
Mm-hmm.
The only thing that is irking me really is the Heron. I really don't like the Heron.
I don't like the Heron. Yeah.
I don't like him at all.
And I don't like, for somebody who does enjoy like the horror aspects, even if it's not a horror film, don't like these horror moments.
Yeah.
They're freaking me out.
But what I'm kind of thinking is there's some sort of curse on the family.
Ooh, interesting.
That's what I'm thinking. And that's why all the stuff related to the spirit world is evil.
Yeah.
And even the spirit world we've seen thus far doesn't remind me of Spirited Away that much because it has a darker undertone to it than Spirited Away did.
Yeah. Well, I mean, that actually brings up the idea. I mean, the great uncle disappeared. So maybe
into the tower,
he put a curse or did something terrible that ended his life and maybe kind of ruined generations to come.
Yeah.
I don't know. But am I that invested? There was a couple of small things that we haven't mentioned, like he does confront the bird with like a wooden stick or a bat or whatever that was.
That was when the frog moment happened.
Yeah.
He got up in the middle of the night. So the whole beginning sequence of this after he hurts himself is
kind of like a dream. Or I don't know.
Well, he woke up from a dream.
Yeah, but then
he had another dream about his mom.
He also goes to check if that bat is still there. It's intact, but then it disintegrates. So
the second time, yeah.
Yeah. And also, big funny moment to me. I know it's not going to be funny to anybody else. But when the dad is like, I donated 300 yen to the school, so you don't have to worry about it anymore. And I'm like, isn't that like $2? But I guess that meant a lot more back then.
Yeah, at the time period, I have no idea.
I was like, damn, $2.
Well, I had a funny moment when the stepmom was telling him the story about the ancestor.
Yeah.
And they're drinking tea.
Yeah.
And after she tells the story, he says, okay, thanks for the tea. And I laughed out loud because she had just told this like story and then he said, thanks for the tea. But he meant like the actual physical tea. But in this moment of cultural relevancy.
Thanks for the tea. Yeah.
Thanks for that great story.
Yeah. Wow. No, that's funny. Because I didn't even think of it in that moment.
Oh, I laughed
but I was
out
thinking
loud.
like he just dismissed her and was like, I don't care about the story.
Well,
but
yes, that exactly
makes it
what
so
he
much
said.
funnier.
For the cultural relevance of just this specific moment in 10 years or 20 years won't be
It's not
funny.
gonna mean
10 years ago
anything.
didn't mean anything.
Nope.
Okay, one question I had about the dad.
Okay.
Who we see a little bit, he gets like really upset about who did this to you, whatever. But we also learned more about, I guess, his job. What are those metal things he was they were making.
I could be so off base about this, but I thought he was making like airplane parts.
That's what I thought too. Okay. So we'll just say that that's right, because that's what I thought too.
Very wrong.
I thought that they were airplane parts as well. Okay. And also around this moment, the grannies had all kind of been this like collective force, with the one who looks like Yubaba kind of being the speaker for them. But then there's this other old lady who's like looking for cigarettes and stuff. And I wasn't like thinking too much about her, but obviously she becomes a version of her becomes an important part of the movie. I'm assuming later on. But this is the first time where she started shining on her own, and we got like more character development out of her with the cigarette moment.
Yeah. Not saying this because of the cigarettes, because I know you don't even smoke cigarettes, but for some reason in my head, I've already decided that that's going to be you.
Oh, yeah.
Okay. But she is you.
She's 100% me.
Okay.
And even in the cigarette moment, Kelli is right. I don't smoke cigarettes. Last week, I got stuck in 12 hours of traffic, and the first thing I wanted was a cigarette when I got out of the car. I have no idea why. And when I was watching this movie and she asked for the cigarettes, that's what I thought of. And that was before I thought that she was me, because it was when we see her as young Kiriko that I was like, that's obviously me.
Both versions. That's going to be you as an old lady.
Where are my cigarettes? I'm going to have a cigarette voice for sure.
No, you're not. You've got such a great voice.
Well, thank you.
Voicey.
Was that good?
That was great.
Thank you.
I hope we don't get a copyright strike, because that sounded so perfect. It sounded like it was on the radio.
I know. So also in this moment with the cigarettes, because she's asking him for cigarettes, he's doing like the bow and arrow thing.
Oh,
and
this is bow and arrow thing.
There's something with the
feather.
The feather that I kind of
actually
missed.
wrote down what is okay. This is actually just a general question, because I realized it ends up being relatively magical. What is the importance aerodynamically of having a feather at the end of your bow? Because
feathers,
I don't know
help
how
a bird fly.
I was a film major, Leah.
I know that birds.
You got a lot of bird knowledge for a bird hater.
Yeah.
Also, wait. Are you loving this movie because birds seem to be the bad guys?
I don't even want to talk about that. But yeah, the bad guys are really hurting me.
Birds.
They're all birds.
They're all birds. I should have known from that moment that you would love this film, because there's a lot of evil birds, and everyone's like, wow, the birds are so evil. And like, you are probably living for that.
Like the pelicans, like being the evil thing, and the heron, I just like don't understand.
Yeah. The pelicans eating all the little marshmallow guys, which I already forgot what they're called.
Walla Wallows.
You're
a Walla Walla. Yeah. We don't even have to wait to the second episode unless who knows, because the second half we got introduced to like new characters, so we might meet new people.
I have thoughts on that new character.
Yeah, but back to this arrow thing. Bird feathers, like their bones, bird bones are hollow so that they can fly in their aerodynamics. So because their feathers help them fly, I assume it helps an arrow shoot. But what I don't understand, they said something about it's his number 7 flight feather.
And it's like his weakness or something. Yeah, I don't get it at all. Yeah.
Confused.
It just seems like it's just like a fairy tale thing. Like, oh, the bird's 7th feather.
Yeah, so I'm not going to think too much about it, but Kiriko does help him build this arrow. There was beautiful violin music here, apparently, that I wrote about.
Don't remember that.
While he was making the arrow, the arrow.
Yeah, I thought that was an interesting montage, but at this point, I was like, what is this movie about?
Oh, this was where I was confirmed that his mother was his new mom's sister.
Oh, really?
Because he found a book with her handwriting. And then I was like, oh, she used to live in this house.
Oh, because see, I just thought that was just one of his belongings.
No, because they only came with like a suitcase, right?
Yeah, that's true. But that just makes me continue to judge this family.
I'm really not judging it. I'm going to default to cultural differences here.
I don't know. I'm saying he moved on fast. When I die, if my partner doesn't grave me for at least a decade.
If he doesn't lose the will to live.
Yeah, seriously. What is this man doing? He's moving on?
Yeah.
No, lose the will to live, please.
And at this point in the movie, this is when they start searching for the stepmother, which then I remembered, there was like a very small moment earlier where he saw her go off into the woods. Like walking off,
yeah.
And now she's lost. They have to go search. He goes back to the tower, the tunnel. And this is when he's with Kiriko. Apparently, this is when they're like, only your blood can hear the voice of the Heron. Okay, that makes no sense, but we'll just pretend.
Family curse? I don't know.
Yeah. I was getting the family curse. Yeah, no, this is when I was starting to feel that way, but I was also sort of like, why can only his family... Actually, this must have been the moment where there were so many little hints and Easter eggs left where I was like, yeah, his mom is the sister. And again, when they're like, oh, only your family. Okay, well, if he's the family, unless his dad married his own sister, which Star Wars
seems to be a common theme in our movies.
Yeah. But they do end up in the beautiful hall with his mother and the Heron, but it's not his mother.
No, she was a pile of goo.
That was awful.
Also, wait, can I just say, yeah, that was terrible. However, did you read The Outsider? Speaking of Stephen King?
No.
Okay. I don't want to spoil it because I feel like you should read it.
Yeah, it's on the list. I think I own it, actually.
Okay, well, the people who have read or watched The Outsider, I just recently read it, and that pile of goo really put me off. That's all I'll say about that.
Okay, moving on from that. We already mentioned that the heron's like not really a heron. At this point, we'd seen his teeth, but this is where we start seeing the nose and the face.
Yeah,
oh,
huge,
God.
Like unsightly face.
Oh, Robert Pattinson. Why have you done this to us?
I would never have known that was Robert Pattinson. Never.
Yeah. Now at this point, he's...
Not by the looks, by the voice.
Yeah.
Obviously.
He's a hottie. I like his reg voice.
Yeah. He put on a weird voice for this.
Yeah.
Which is impressive, but I still hate the movie. Sorry.
Yeah.
Also, can I just say this really annoyed me when he shoots the arrow and it like flies around because it's got that magical feather on it.
Yeah.
Flies around, hits him, and then the granny is like, "Nice shot." What do you mean? That wasn't him at all.
That part was a little silly.
And he's like, "Oh yeah, that was me." Come on.
That was a trick shot.
Yeah.
That was a good trick shot. It must have something to do with the feather. Who knows? Weirdness, but love
magic.
Granny though.
Magic.
Absolutely love her.
Yeah.
And at this point now he's demanding, like, I want to find my stepmom, like bring her to me. He's really dedicated. Even though throughout this movie, it's been so unclear of like his feelings about her.
Yeah, it's actually an interesting parallel to Spirited Away because he is the same sort of unwilling hero as Chihiro.
Yeah.
But at this point, I felt that he had a lot more resolve. Things could just continue to happen to him. His stepmom could die, whatever. But like at this point, he's almost taking charge of his life again.
Right. Because I would say what differs from him and Chihiro is Chihiro stumbled into the spirit realm and she was lost in the spirit realm and she needed her parents to get out. He doesn't have to care about his stepmom. He could just go back and live his life. He's like actively choosing this adventure.
Yeah, which is weird because he never seems to indicate that he's
that
a big
he liked
fan.
her or anything. Yeah.
I mean, up until she disappeared, I wasn't a big fan either.
Yeah.
But then I was also like, it's not really her fault that the dad remarried. Like, okay. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah.
She's just trying to make the best of her situation.
Yeah, absolutely. But also with Mahito and his motivation, yes, his stepmom has gone missing. And I think he probably has this idea it has something to do with this heron in the spirit realm. The heron is promised, I have your mom.
Yes.
And so him going initially was more about the mom. But then at this point,
that's very true.
The mom is melted and now he knows she's in danger.
Yeah.
And I think that's what kind of springs him into action.
Yeah. Which I think is also kind of interesting that they bring up this idea of like, well, you haven't seen her die. You haven't seen her body, which I was like,
that's rude.
Yeah, that's such a weird thing to like. That's not the best messaging, but again, it's not for kids, so I guess it doesn't matter.
And then
what happens?
This was the moment where I called him Spiky Daddy because we don't really have much about him yet.
Okay,
Spiky Head Daddy. That's all we've seen of him.
Okay,
so he looks hot. I don't know.
Okay,
he just commands them to work together.
Yeah.
So that's all we know about him. I assume we'll hear more about him in the second half, but Spiky Head Daddy commands them to work together. And he says that the heron needs to be his guide to his stepmother. They melt into the spirit world. Kiriko is unwillingly a participant now in this. But when they get to the spirit, when he gets to where he is, she's gone.
Yeah.
So he's alone and he goes to the gate. And the gate says, all who seek my knowledge shall die. And then the pelicans, this is where the scary birds come in. Yeah. The pelicans start attacking him.
See, this repeated use, I'm sure that there's like a big, powerful meaning behind it, but I do not love this like being covered in animals overwhelming you thing.
Yeah, not a huge fan of that.
How many times is it going to happen in this movie?
I think it's supposed to be off-putting.
It is, but like, and I agree with that, but I'm also like, we don't have to keep doing it.
The worst for me was definitely the frogs.
The frogs was
really
bad.
Horrible.
The frogs was bad.
Yeah, that was
and as
so
a big
bad.
frog fan, that was a hard watch.
Yeah. But he gets saved. He gets saved. The birds get chased off him by a sailor who we see for a little while throughout this end section. And we do learn that she is Kiriko, but she's young and hot and me.
I didn't even write sailor. I wrote pirate. She was giving me pirate vibes.
I guess, yeah. More specific version of a sailor.
Like a badass kind of sailor.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, I guess sailors can be badass, but like this is like a kind of a baddie.
She is a baddie. She's great. She saves him. They end up on the boat. They show their matching scars, which I thought was very cute.
Yeah.
And yeah, they're just going, they hit some waves, they do some fishing.
My eyes start glazing over.
She says, where are you from? He says, up there.
Yeah.
Which I didn't know that directionally that's where he was from. But he says, like, I'm looking for my stepmother. She tells us that his name Mahito means sincere one. So, they're just kind of like learning about each other.
This was so boring for me.
This was when, it was just getting slow.
Yeah.
I will say, the first half of this movie was slow.
Yeah.
It was slow. But I don't mind slow movies. I didn't see myself really losing interest.
Here's my thought. I like slow movies. I like character-driven movies where there's not much story. This one, like, I feel like it couldn't decide if it wanted to be character-driven or if it wanted to be, like, plot-driven.
Yeah.
Because it felt like there were a lot of things that were like, this is important. I'm not going to tell you why, but it is important. And then, like, you're like, oh, okay, so it's a plot-driven story. And then they would be like, well, here's a really long scene of them sailing together.
But I think that's just, like, the Studio Ghibli
way.
Like, stamp on it,
Yeah.
Where it's kind of both.
Yeah, I guess that's fair.
Yeah.
Don't love it.
Yeah, we get back to, end up off the ship. We meet the Wada Wadas. We meet the Kellis, the Kellys. I'm not really getting a sense of his urgency and his mission or anything because he's gutting the fish. And I agree.
Nasty.
That was
awful.
awful.
And the amount of guts that poured out of that fish, like, I was like, what is the significance of this in the film? Because sometimes when I get annoyed at a film, I start to go into film major mode and I like ask myself,
why?
What was the purpose of this shot?
And I agree with that because you have to think like everything is a choice. And
Yeah,
even if the
mise en
choice
scène.
didn't work for you, you have to say, why was the choice made? And if I can justify the choice, even if it didn't make sense for me, then I can
Then
justify
it's fine.
it.
Yeah. So I was thinking about that with the guts. I don't know that he's in over his head. I have no idea. It pissed me off.
I think it's all the animation style, the world building. I think everything that's been off-putting is not just like a moment of it being off-putting. I think that's supposed to be the why. With the frogs, with the pelicans.
Gosh, I can't wait for more. Another hour of this
Kelly's
movie.
loving it.
Oh,
I was feeling like we were coming up to a good stopping point for the movies.
Yeah.
But I was thinking, it's hard when we don't have an expert because then we have to, as we're watching it, as we're coming up to the half point of the movie, we as first-time viewers have to decide this feels like a good stopping point.
Yeah.
And I wasn't finding one because it was just like, it was the middle point of the movie.
Yeah,
It was
kept
slow,
going.
it was slow. And then we had the beautiful little departure of the Wada Wadas. And I was like, this is a great little stopping point.
Yeah.
I love these Wada Wadas. Wow, we're just going to have a nice little fade to black. And that's not what happened.
No.
The pelicans came and attacked. And that was
ate them.
horrifying.
Yeah, that was upsetting.
That was
Especially
horrifying.
for me.
Because it was
I
you.
didn't even write down what they were. I just wrote marshmallow guys. They were the best characters in the film.
They were so cute. I loved them.
And then so what happens is that girl shows up and
Lady Himi.
which that's his mom.
I'm getting the vibe too that Lady Himi is his mom.
Whoa, she's a fire lady.
Because she's a fire lady, obviously. Also, Karen Fukuhara, who I mentioned in the pre-thoughts,
from The
has
Voice.
not made an appearance yet. I have not heard her voice, and I have to assume
That's gonna
it's
be
Lady
her.
Himi. Yeah.
Yeah. 0% chance it's anything else.
Yeah. Just with the context clues we've gotten thus far.
Yeah, and actually, that in the second half of the film, that might end up being you because she's like a fire girl and
Yeah,
you're
that's
like a
true.
fire girl. But even as she's throwing the fireworks or whatever, what's the boy's name? I already forgot. Mahito. He was worried that her flames were going to burn up the little marshmallow guys as well.
Oh, yeah.
So
That'd be tasty, though.
yeah,
Burn
well,
marshmallow.
hey, please don't eat me. But yeah, like even her method of scaring away the birds wasn't perfect, which I thought was interesting. I'm curious to see how that kind of pans out.
Yeah. But that does end the section that we stopped for the film because after that crazy moment, it does calm down a little bit and they go inside to eat. And that's where we
they're
ended
like,
it.
that's what death looks like. Anyway, let's
Yeah.
go eat.
And a moment we did miss in this sequence was we saw the granny statues. So
yes.
Kiriko has been, I guess, carving these statues. And why is she
Of
young?
herself. That's interesting. It's like the dream version of her, or like, I don't know.
And she also mentioned something where she says, I've been here for as long as I can remember. So what we're getting with Kiriko at at this point is she's not the age that we have established her at. And her time in this world appears to be a lot longer than Mahito's time in this world.
Yeah.
And that's confusing. So this place doesn't exist in time or space that we understand it.
I kind of took it as like dream world. Like you don't really remember the beginning of your dreams. You're just kind of
You're
like,
just kind
I've
of
always
there.
been here.
Yeah. I was kind of getting that time exists weird here. Wherever we're at, time is weird. But
Yeah.
I don't know why yet or how.
Yeah, if there is a why or how.
Yeah. But I feel as though I wrote vast predictions at this point.
Give it to me.
And one of my
the only prediction I have is that that's the mom.
that's the mom. Yeah, that was one of my predictions, that when we meet Lady Hime, which I assume we're going to meet very soon, she is his mother. Which, again, how?
Yeah.
That's confusing.
She's still alive. Maybe she got fire powers from the fire.
So yeah, maybe the Heron's onto something, who knows. But
Yeah.
my prediction with Kiriko, and I said this before with the Heron, is I do think that the second half of this movie will focus a lot more on Mahito with the Heron and their journey together.
Okay.
And I do think that Kiriko as a character, actually her story will end here. I don't think we're ever going to see her. I predict that when we come back to the movie, the boy and the Heron are going to leave and go on their adventure, and Kiriko is going to stay behind. And whatever happened to her coming into this universe, she's too ingrained, she's too invested.
Ooh.
Whatever passage of... I just spit so far.
That was really close to me.
That was a huge wad of...
Yeah, that was
spit.
a lot. That got real close.
I'm really sorry about that.
Are you?
You would have melted. I'm melting if it hit you.
I wouldn't melt. I'm a marshmallow.
Oh, that's true. So yeah, I kind of get this vibe that Kiriko is just a look into this world and what could happen to someone in this world. I feel like she's gone. She's just stuck there. I also wrote this movie is spirited away, but not for kids. The Heron is a less swoon-worthy Haku.
How dare you?
I said a less swoon-worthy.
Yeah, but
He's like the guide, the way that Haku was
guess.
the guide. You know?
I mean, I don't know if that's true. I don't know that I agree with you. I feel like he's the villain.
I feel like he's not the villain though, because the Spiky
I
Daddy
guess.
said,
I don't like him. That's all I'm saying.
I don't like him either, but I think him and the Heron, they're going to work together to save the ant. I do think there's going to be like some dark family secret revealed, like something about a curse that I've mentioned a few times, something that this ancestor did that has now cursed the family. Because at this point, we know, well, we don't know that Lady Hime is his mom, but we're assuming Lady Hime is his mom. His aunt is now in this world. He is now in this world. Only their family can talk to the Heron. There's something about this family that we're going to learn about. Like maybe he made an evil deal. I don't know. And yeah, Mahito and the Heron are going to break the curse together in their little buddy comedy.
Interesting. I believe you.
Thank you.
I have no thoughts. Just that it's his mom and that the second half of the story better pick up.
I feel like it's got to now that we're in like spirit world.
Yeah, I guess that's true. I mean, I keep comparing it to Spirited Away, but what I loved about Spirited Away was just such a stark difference between the human world and the spirit world. And in this movie, it almost felt like it was like a twisted fantasy from the beginning. Like the real world is awful.
Well, it is World War II.
Yeah, it was awful, which I agree with. But then there was all, like the thing with the frogs and stuff, like all of these sorts of moments where you're like, up until this moment, I believe that I am grounded in reality, but something horrifying, magical is still happening.
Yeah, no, I mean, I feel like as soon as we met the Heron, it started talking. Like, we knew we weren't grounded in reality. At that
I guess
point.
that's fair.
Yeah,
I don't know what it is about it that I don't love. I just don't. Sometimes you just get a feeling, you know?
Yeah,
So.
Which is so crazy because I'm like loving it.
Really?
I'm loving it. Yeah.
Oh
I
my
like it a
gosh.
lot more than Spirited Away, actually.
Really? Okay.
I normally wouldn't put a kid's movie, except for Spirit, Stallion of the Cimarron, high up on my list of favorite movies. Like when it's for a kid audience, it's not really for me. All the reasons you're saying you don't like this movie are reasons that I do like a movie.
Yeah.
I do like ambiguity. I do like that conversation of like, what did that mean?
Am I immature?
Am I a child? Somewhere between 5 and 13.
That's my mental age. I like to think that I have the mental age of a 13-year-old boy.
Yeah. Oh, agreed.
But yeah, I guess we'll see what happens.
Yeah.
Maybe the movie will get better for me.
No predictions for you?
Mom.
That's it.
That's
Wow.
all I got. That's all I got. I'm not that invested yet. We'll see. We'll see what happens.
Well, while you're watching the second half of the movie, keep your ears peeled for a very famous voice actor
Okay.
who I've yet to identify.
Okay. So there's a lot of new characters probably going to come. Okay.
That's what I'm assuming.
Yeah.
Because we like the way that it picked up and we started meeting all these new people right at where we ended.
Yeah.
I just assume we're going
to get a whole
way
crowd.
more
Yeah.
happening. Yeah.
Okay. We'll be back next week.
Stay geeky.
Stay geeky. Woo.